This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, Winnipeg? It is game day tonight. Bombers, Elks, 7:30 p.m. Princess Auto Stadium. We're all over it. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We have a beautiful day for some football at the loudest stadium in the Canadian Football League, folks. Sunny and 25 degrees in Winnipeg, Manitoba today. And the undefeated Bombers hosting the winless Elks. And the Bombers now a double-digit favorite in the game, 10.5 at Coolbet right now. I'm not sure they win running away, but we'll talk about it. Eddie Steele, Winnipeg native, pride of the Kelvin Clippers, U of M Bisons, and longtime CFLer is going to join us from Edmonton to give us the latest on the Elks coming into tonight's game and what he thinks about this upcoming match tonight at Princess Auto Stadium. We're also going to talk to the boss, the new commissioner of the Canadian Football League. Stewart Johnston is going to join us first up at the bottom of the hour. But of course, with the National Hockey League draft beginning tomorrow and free agency next week, a lot going on around the National Hockey League is where we're going to start tonight. Kevin Cheveldayoff spoke earlier today. We'll have some of the pertinent clips for you right off the bat, and then Murat Ates is going to join us a little later on the program as well. Of course, it is draft week. We're bringing in some of our favorites. Grant McCagg from Recrutes.ca also teed up later on today for his thoughts on what we might see tomorrow night in the first round of the National Hockey League draft. We're going to get right to it. Welcome to everybody listening on podcast and everyone with us live on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. Big thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers in Ben Moss, St. Patel Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Aikens Lake, Roley's Transfer, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Gold Eyes, who are back at home this weekend, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend Country Club. We'll do a Why Not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, get you some fan feedback for fansfirst.ca, where I imagine a lot of people will going to trying to grab tickets for this game tonight as we're looking towards another sellout at Princess Auto Stadium for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Welcome to everybody in chat, and come on in, Michael Remis. What's going on?
Yeah, just feverishly refreshing Twitter over the last, 12 hours or since last night when this J.J. Paterka trade to the Utah Mammoth went down, looking for reaction. We've had so much NHL news leading up to the draft. Also, the Bombers in action. The Sea Bears are playing tomorrow. Winnipeg Gold Eyes return home this weekend as well for a homestand that goes into Canada Day. So lots happening here. Pumped for this Bomber game. Huge favorites, as you mentioned. But also the hockey, the NHL. The big news today was the CBA. It seems like we're going to have some kind of announcement that and some understanding that they will be renewing for 5 years. But locally here, Cheveldayoff speaking, and the Bomber game tonight. Also the Commissioner. I'm excited to have him on the program with you coming up, in this hour. So exciting stuff here as we're approaching July 1.
Yeah, no doubt. That news about the new CBA is, I think, great news. Listen, do we need 2 more regular season games? Definitely not. I guess if it cuts down the preseason, okay. I mean, as someone that, I guess if I, buying season tickets, give me an extra regular season game that I'm forced to pay for as opposed to preseason games, sure. But it's some of the other things. I mean, figuring out the LTIR making things taking out some of the loopholes, I think, is really important moving forward. And it does sound, what is interesting, Remis, apparently they've taken away the player dress code. I'm not sure that was a big thing from the players' associations that they were working for, but maybe, just maybe, we'll now have a real, some more color, if you will, on the, what did the Jets do this year? It was the Mondetta Arrivals, where they would just take the pictures of the players when they're coming in right now. Is this what it's about in today's day and age? We're just letting people be themselves, free to be themselves a little bit more. So maybe we'll see some different looks on players coming in. But more than anything, it's just great news that we're talking about this well in advance of a date. No one's even mentioned the word lockout or strike or anything, and we should have some labor peace moving forward and a framework as the salary cap goes up for this league to continue to grow.
Yeah, salary cap was, 95.5. It's going up to 104 for 25-26 and 113 for 26-27. We're going to have no, whisper of the term lockout or strike through 2030, which is exciting because I remember the 2012 lockout, and it was so depressing coming in every day talking about HRR and negotiations and blah, blah, blah. And you want to talk about games. So that's exciting. They also announced the World Cup of Hockey in 2028. They're accepting host bids. So we're going to have that. We might have to start finalizing or putting up some travel plans, as you got to go this past year in Boston for part of it. And that was definitely a success. So what will the follow-up be for that? I'm sure they'll have some more teams. I mean, it wasn't even World Cup. It was the Four Nations.
The Four Nations face-off.
It was the Four Nations face-off. So, as far as the CBA, I guess if we're going to get less preseason, I'll take the additional season. But the reasoning is so dumb. They're like, oh, we needed 2 more games. So instead of playing one team in your division 3 times, you can play all of them 4. Well, why not just take away 2 games? You play the same division, the other division in your conference 3 times. Why not play some of those teams 2 times and add other game to the teams in your division? Because as we've seen, you'd have 3 games. The Jets have 3 games against Minnesota or Dallas. And in a league where division matters so much for the playoff format, it seems so silly. But no, they added the 2 game. We all want more season games, but not really. But
why couldn't the PA have grinded to go back to 1 to 8? Like that, I would have appreciated that. You want to get us the fans on the players' side, make some changes like that. How about 3-point games?
Well, and you want to go through the changes here. They are creating a full-time emergency backup goalie, so we're not going to see Scott Foster coming in or
what about Zane Kalemba?
Yeah, accountant by day, E-Bug by night, or Zane Kalemba, or the most famous E-Bug, David Ehlers. You're not going to have a situation where an amateur beer league goalie is taking NHL shots, and that's probably a good thing. So they're going to have a full-time player who's a practice goalie, probably practicing when the starter doesn't want to go or ready to come in for each team. So I'm curious who these E-Bugs will be around the league, because at times they're the most famous person in the game. And, who will the Jets get? Will they get some local guy, or do you bring someone in? I'm curious about the market for the new E-Bug.
Well, and who's going to do it? And I'll say that, why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray to the chat. Did the NHL just invent maybe the greatest job on planet Earth for somebody, where you travel with the team, you're around the team, you are obviously getting paid, enough to live on and taking you around. I'm sure you get the per diems and all that. And you never play unless there is the highly unlikely situation where both goaltenders get hurt in a game. To me, this sounds like one of the cushiest, greatest jobs since, since Jim Sorgi was carrying clipboard for Peyton Manning for all those years in Indy.
Nice, yeah. He didn't get a lot of time in there. So we'll see how it works. So yeah, you travel, you get all the meals, you get the hotel. I don't know what the salary is. I don't know, Huss. Traveling, it's pretty grueling on the road, Huss. You're flying late on private planes.
First class,
arriving
beautiful.
Man, you have to arrive at 3 a.m., probably not sleeping a lot. I don't know. I think you're overblowing it.
I mean, listen, for players, but then you don't have to play. I mean, what do you do? Hang out at the team hotel? And I mean, do you have to go to meet? Like, I don't think so. You're not really on the team. So I listen, I wish I was a better goaltender and a little younger. That I would be the first guy at the front of the list applying to be the full-time e-bug for a National Hockey League team. But I'm with you. I'm very intrigued as to who these guys are that do this. I'll tell you what, we may have to do a special pod or a new show on WST where we just every week we talk to a different permanent e-bug around the league and talk about what's the those guys will have some good intel on the National Hockey League as well, being on the inside.
Yeah, 100%. So e-bug, no more, beer league goalies getting to NHL games. Just going through the changes, Huss, that they're gonna announce as reported by Sarah Valley. Contract limits. Right now it's max 8 years for the team you're re-signing with and 7 for a UFA. It's going to be reduced 1 to 7 for the max and 6 for UFA. So next year is the last year of 8-year deals. Draft pick rights. Teams will hold players' rights until age 22, regardless of the development path, with players moving from CHL to NCAA, all that changing. They said, hey, if you get drafted at 18, team will have your rights to age 22. No matter where. They're going to double the Stanley Cup bonus pool. That's good for the players. But deferring signing bonus, the deferring salary will now be outlawed, and signing bonuses will have a cap of 60% of the contract value. That's there. You mentioned the LTIR loophole for playoff putting in a playoff salary cap. And yeah, that's what we're looking at here. We'll see the official announcement. Most importantly, as we said, CBA stability, and we're not going to be dealing with this going forward for a while.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, the official announcement will come tomorrow. Tomorrow's draft day. We'll be all over it here and into next week here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But we do have the Commissioner Stewart Johnston of the CFL coming up in a few minutes. So let's get to the Jets news today. Murat will join us and we'll discuss all of this. But in addition to announcing the preseason schedule, 6 games, home and home, Minnesota, Edmonton, Calgary, Kevin Cheveldayoff spoke this morning, and there was some really interesting stuff. We're going to get to it right now, involving Taves and Ehlers and whatnot, and obviously the upcoming draft. But with the draft, obviously this is hopefully a one and done year where it is being done remotely. But Cheveldayoff did open up on a question in today's availability on a regret that he had regarding development camp and not doing out of COVID. This is Chevy, just on the opportunity to get everyone together, their prospects for development camp. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, so if I regret one thing, over the course of the tenure here, it would be not having a development camp, right out of COVID there, and when we didn't have that, because I think we missed that opportunity to do exactly what you just said there, get everybody together. That's their chance to wear the sweater, to have coaching involved, talk about it, but. Like for me, the real value is in the off ice side of it, like the training, being able to, start putting into these players' heads how important, what they do off the ice, what they put into their body is, how they train, get measurements on them so that you can say, well, here's an NHL player's measurement. Here's yours. I'm not saying it's bad. But you want to get there, you got to get there. So that's that's really I think the value that's in there. It's not an evaluation side of things on the ice, although it's nice, when you can get them out there and, you see them have some fun because it is, it's summer hockey and it's not even that actually, it's just fun. So, but it's there's lots of things that, you can impart organizational philosophy, into the group.
All right, so there's Kevin Cheveldayoff with a bit of a look ahead to development camp next week. We'll be all over that on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But listen, the biggest signing that hasn't officially happened yet for the Jets, of course, is Jonathan Toews. That will pen to paper will happen on Tuesday of next week on Canada Day, but it has been the talk of Winnipeg and certainly of the organization. Chevy was asked about the agreement to welcome Jonathan Toews back to the National Hockey League right here in the Peg with the Jets.
Again, it's a unique situation, where you have a player that is a totally unrestricted free agent, and coming back to play. So the rules are a little bit different. It's just more on the contract filing side of things. There's, limitations that the league has as far as, being able to file and register. So, but we've had some great conversations, with Jonathan. He's obviously very, very excited. I think Arnie and him talked last night. I was talking to Arnie this morning in the room. Again, he's on board with both feet, so to speak, and he was talking about the testing. He was talking about, what are the standards? What are we, trying to, uphold here? So, but that's him. Like we, in our intel there, he was skating in Arizona State, and there was some people that have closeness to our scouting staff, that talked about, how hard he was working and how much, he had, kind of progressed. But, the thing that they raved about, was just him, him as a person with all those, young players and just how every one of those young players raved about how good he made them feel like, and that's what he is. He's a leader, and again, when we started, when this started to become more real, I reached out to our captains and said, look, we're going to have a Zoom here with JT. Can I give him your numbers to call? And like within seconds, all the guys are texting back like absolutely, and Arnie had conversations. So again, it's. When we do get a chance to get him here, I don't think he can make it here for July 1st. He's got some commitments, but shortly thereafter, you guys will get the sense of just how excited he is and how special, that the opportunity to come back and play in the National Hockey League is for him.
All right, so there's Chevy on Jonathan Toews, and that presser when Toews comes back to Winnipeg for the first time and meets the media as a Winnipeg Jet will be amongst the biggest pressers I think this organization has had since 2011, of course, with the biggest one of them all, announcing the team coming back to Winnipeg. Listen, the biggest story until we get to July 1st and hear differently around here, though, is Nikolai Ehlers' future, the Winnipeg Jets. Chevy was asked about where things are at with Ehlers, and if the Toews signing and the early announcement might help the Jets in their quest to entice him to stick around in the Peg.
We'll continue to have conversations until we can't, or until we're, saying congratulations, thank you. Like those are things that, again, but, certainly I think, for us, and then again, I don't want to get too much into the contract, but we structured it on purpose to have flexibility, to be able to, pivot and do different things, from a signing standpoint of other players as well, and that was enticing to JT as well. Like he readily understands, what it means to have other players around you too. So hopefully it moves the needle. We'll find out.
Yes, we will find out in a few days. If everyone's on pins and needles on that topic and everything else happening with the draft, potential deals over the course of the next few days, but. Whether Nikolai Ehlers is signing his next contract back here in Winnipeg or with another team. One of the other topics Cheveldayoff was asked about was the status of Captain Adam Lowry, after the hip surgery he underwent shortly after the team was bounced from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Here's the latest on the captain from the general manager.
This has probably come up a couple of times now, and he's been doing maintenance on it over the course of years, and after every season you kind of do a benchmark test to see where things are at, and this year after the test, we compare it against the last year's test, and there was noticeable change, and so his doctor's recommendation that it's going to happen. You don't want that to happen in the middle of the year. So we made the hard decision, but not a hard decision to get it done at the beginning. And I think he's got a checkup coming up here shortly. Arnie said he spoke to him a couple days ago there as well, and was I think almost off the crutches, I think, and stuff like that. So moving along.
Yeah, and the final part of that was going to be, it's a pretty broad timeline of how long he could be out. could be a couple weeks into the season, could be a month and a half. I mean, you don't have any more clarity yet.
No, and we won't really until, I think he progresses into the skating phases and stuff like that. Like those are things where you also want to be cautious because it's, you put all that time and effort into rehab. You want to make sure that it's the right decisions.
All right, so there's Chevy on the Lowry surgery and his recovery. One more, and this is more a focus on tomorrow. It is a virtual draft for the first time. They won't be at a table with all of their counterparts from around the league in one place. It'll be the first time. Well, I guess they probably did that through COVID, but hopefully back to getting everyone together next year. That won't be the case. Chevy was asked about their setup for the virtual draft. Obviously, Jimmy Roy and some of the other support staff will be there, and just getting all set up for tomorrow and Saturday. Here's what he had to say on all of that.
The league is going to set up some virtual rooms where the player, goes into, and we'll get on a virtual call with them, right away and have that. We will, every team will have a representative there. Jimmy Roy will be there for us as player development. So he'll, get the first touch point with, with the actual player, and obviously, start the process of getting him into the development side of the organization. Then obviously, they'll be getting on a plane and coming to development camp, which starts, shortly thereafter. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure, given the history of the league with the events that they try to, that they have been very successful pulling off. Steve Mayer will have some good ideas that will go into implementation and see how they look on TV.
One more. You were talking about the advantage, you being virtual now, you don't have to rush back for free agency. Is there any other advantages that you possibly can see, that something you could take away from this? Well, yeah, again, the freedom to, to talk openly in the room, that was something that we noted in the past, COVID drafts is the ability to, if you want to ask the scout that's sitting across the room, you don't have to walk around and ask him a question. You can just, say it out loud and stuff like that. So, you will get, I guess, a lot more dialogue, when it comes to that. But again, there's, the feel of being shoulder to shoulder and, kind of seeing where the picks go. There's that level of excitement that we'll see if it's still there.
All right, so there's some highlights from Kevin Cheveldayoff. We'll hit that, the JJ Peterka trade, some of the other things happen around the National Hockey League with Murat Ates, who's going to join us in a few minutes. But first up next, it's going to be the Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stewart Johnston. Just before we bring in the commish, a big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Gang, if you have a move coming up for you and your family, lean on the experts at Rolly's, who've been doing it for into 7 decades here, is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. You can check out their site at Rollies.com for all of their services, and then click on that request an estimate box at the top right corner. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Simply let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And our friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote for you and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies is famous for, as the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies Transfer. You might even get your stuff moved in that beautiful Winnipeg Sports Talk truck that's on the road right now. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are ready for summer. And of course, you might be getting away for a couple months, spending out time at the lake, but you don't want to forget to take care of your teeth for you and your family. And St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital, now with a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road, with free parking, conveniently located right in the back of the building, state-of-the-art equipment, and amazing staff, including our pal Dr. Terry James. Go to stvitaldental.ca for more information on everything they have to offer, from cleanups and from cleanings and checkups, all the way to things like dental implants. You can also make an appointment to come in and see Dr. Terry and the gang at stvitaldental.ca. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery have been ready for summer for about a month, but we are here. It is officially summer. Canada Day weekend coming up. We got a big football game tonight. But listen, if you're heading out and you haven't got your camper going, your boat, your Sea-Doo, your ATV, you need batteries for those. And Manitoba Battery is your local option where you'll save big. It is time to wake up and to stop paying $50, $60 more a battery at the big box stores when you can get the best deals in town at Manitoba Battery. 2 locations to serve you. The Logan Avenue, the original location, and of course Dovercourt Drive in the south side. But Manitoba Battery will also take care of everything for you. You can give them a call or order online, and they'll deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Save time, save money, shop local, Manitoba Battery. 2 locations in Winnipeg and online at manitobabattery.com. And hey, just before we get to the CFL Commissioner, we got a big game tonight. And Canadian Club, of course, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I know we're going to see that North End pack with a lot of people enjoying the great taste of Canada's original Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. But as we get ready for the long weekend, you can also pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and make sure to grab the new Canadian Club pack of the ready-to-drink coolers, Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, CC Citrus Smash, and the half and half lemonade, half iced tea, right now ready to go in cans. Pop by, check out the Canadian Club display at your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, we'll dive into the game tonight more a little later on. Former longtime CFLer Eddie Steele is going to join us in his hometown of Winnipeg. But right now, it is a pleasure to welcome in for the first time in his new role, the Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stewart Johnston. Stewart, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's great to have you on the show.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Lots to get to right now, but first off, I'm just going to ask you, now this is a big move for you, moving over from your longtime position at TSN to the Canadian Football League. Tell us a little bit about kind of what drew you to the commissioner's role and how the transition's been for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, a big change. 28 years at the same company. I know a lot of maybe the younger folks listening can't believe 28 years at one spot. It's but as you well know, in the media industry, it's ever shifting sands and very dynamic. And I was loving what I was doing, learning every day. And so for anything to bring me away from that role, it had to be something pretty special. And I found when I began thinking about this commissioner role at the CFL, that's exactly what it was to me. It starts with a passion for football. Go from there. It was a connection to the league through my work, having been a partner of the league for all that time that I was at TSN. Got to know a lot of stakeholders of the league. Got to really appreciate a lot of the business of the league, and then really. What really settled it for me to throw my hat in the ring was looking at the group of owners, including the 2 community clubs. And so I think this is one of the strongest board of governors that I've seen or experienced with the league, and that sets a great foundation for growth. Lots of great metrics, lots of good momentum in the leagues. Obviously, a number of challenges, and I'm looking forward to tackling all of those.
Well, listen, you're very, very early in your tenure here, but I do want to ask you, just from the commissioner's position and your outlook on the league and the success of it moving forward, what are your short and long-term goals with the Canadian Football League? And have you figured out how you're going to measure success on those?
Well, I do have a number. I am new. There's a great plan in place for 25. The shortest term goal is let's execute 2025 flawlessly. Let's have a fantastic year. This is a no mistakes year. Let's drive it forward. And so I think we have a team ready to do that. The clubs are feeling great, and with the product on the field is looking good. So let's make sure that we go get all the way till that last game of the season here in Winnipeg, and have a fabulous year. During that time, I'm planning to do a lot of talking to media folks, clubs, fans, players, coaches, staff, all of that, and understand kind of what they love about the league and where they think they can see some improvement. I come into the position thinking about a few key areas that I want to focus on. I want to grow the game of football in Canada. I truly believe that that anytime we get a young person or someone who hasn't been exposed to football in the past to touch a football, to throw a football, to start to learn the rules of football, they will fall in love with this sport. It is that great a sport. And so the support. So when I see what Winnipeg is doing here with the Bombers in flag football, and then their transition to contact and tackle football, that's super important to grow fandom in our league. I also want to focus on the entertainment aspect. We are as much in an entertainment industry as we are in the sports industry. You would know this better than most. We are all in the fight for attention, and it's tough out there. A lot of competition for that attention, whether that's other sports, could be the latest episode of House of the Dragon. It could be, video games. It could be going out and playing sport. All of that is a competition for our content. And we've got to make sure we're as entertaining as possible. And then I think you can measure success as if out of the next few years, we end up with 9 healthy leagues. And I mean that from a business perspective. Sorry, healthy teams from a business perspective. That's where we need to get to demonstrate that we have the ability to grow.
Stewart Johnston, Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Stewart, you mentioned when you took over the job that the first 100 days or so of your tenure was sort of going to be a real listening tour. You mentioned you've talked to a lot of people. What have you been hearing?
I've been hearing a lot of passion, but that's not a surprise. But it is heartwarming as I've gone from market to market. This is my 7th visit out of 9 teams. I'm going to hit the 2 Alberta teams next week, and that'll be all 9 markets. Obviously, talking with the Board of Governors and the league staff in Toronto and around the country as well. But just passion for the game, excitement about where we can go, and if there were many themes. But one theme that really does stand out, perhaps, is Canadiana. I mean, just today, we announced that all teams are going to be wearing a Canadian flag patch on their uniforms starting next week, and I think it's a reflection of what we represent as a Canadian institution. We are a sport that is made in Canada and played in Canada. We are a major top-tier sport that delivers great ROI for business partners, and those business partners are telling us that they want to know more about the CFL. Even those some corporations that haven't talked to the CFL in a long time they are recognizing if they want to support Canada, there aren't many better places to do so than with the CFL.
You mentioned coming here to Winnipeg, and I'm glad you brought up that flag football initiative. And listen, I think anyone that's been paying attention over the last number of years knows that this organization has nailed it time after time after time, and we're going to see it again with another probably sold out crowd, like 8 or 9 in a row. And for someone that's grown up with this football team in this community, I mean, it's a golden era of Blue Bomber football. It's not the case in a lot of other places right now in the market. So I guess you can tell us about the purpose of your trip, but at the same time, I wanted to know what you think as the new commissioner that other markets can learn from the success that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have had off the football field, in the stands, and in this community.
Well, I think we can hold the Bombers franchise as a model to follow across the league. Not everything will travel. Each community is different, has its own uniqueness for sure. But perhaps if there was one thing that Wade and the team at the Bombers front office has clearly been focused on, is what are we doing to show appreciation for our fans? Their customer service is outstanding and comes from a genuine place. The fans are passionate about their club and the league, and we in turn need to recognize and be appreciative of just how amazing our fans are. And that leads in, whether it's the flag initiative, which is a long-term strategy, of course, because you're creating new football fans, but it's short-term as well. You're selling tickets. These are fans who are going to immediately want to come with their team and watch a Bombers game. And I love the focus on it's one ticket at a time. So if a market in another area of the country is not selling out 6 in a row, 7 in a row, 8 in a row, and wants to fill it, well, guess what? It's one ticket at a time, and that's it. There's no magic potion. This is This is really dedicated focus on customers. We have the product that will entertain, create that experience in the stadium that they're going to enjoy and want to come back to, and deliver on all those fronts. And I think we're going to see success everywhere.
As we, I'm sure a part of the challenge of, growing the league is also to really connect with the younger generation and bring those people in, make them football fans, connect them to their local teams. And I don't think there's anywhere that's doing it better than Winnipeg. I mean, if you have the opportunity around halftime to roll through the north end zone, if there's any room, you'll see 4,000 or 5,000 young people, and it's exactly that demographic that I think other teams are working towards trying to get. But there's so much to that, Stewart. And I just, big picture, looking in, I mean, the role, how important is it, obviously, to attract that younger generation? And what role will things like digital content, flag football, as we just mentioned, viral CFL moments, and things that we talk about on a lot on this show, things like fantasy sports and even sports betting as it grows in Canada, what sort of role will that play in trying to connect the league with some younger fans that maybe haven't gotten hooked yet?
Well, I love your laundry list because my easy answer is all of the above. And I'll touch on a few of those. But first, I'll say that I've been strategizing on my placement around the concourse over the course of the game tonight. And I think I'm targeting maybe half hour before game time for the north end. I think that's sort of a landing spot for me. I mean, maybe halftime's not the right time for me to get there. But I'm looking forward to enjoying the entire experience. And that leads into, of course, they've created a social setting for a generation, a group of people that maybe consume live sport far differently than I did growing up. When I grew up, I sat in my seat and watched the game, and I got up to the concourse to get a coffee or a hot dog or go to the bathroom. That was it. And then I came back to my seat. So it's just different. And we all need to accept that. That's a different way of consuming the game and a wonderful way. So create those experiences in the stadium. And I see that in Hamilton. I see that in Regina. I've seen that in other areas, other cities where they are understanding the stadium needs to represent great opportunity for all demographics. Whether if in Winnipeg, there's a great section where families hang out. There's a great section where hardcore folks who watch a game like I do hang out. There's premium. There's affordability, and there's a real social setting at that one end. That's great. But we as a league and as the clubs need to think about the content we're producing outside of broadcast. And that comes back to the digital and social teams you referenced. We have to be producing content that is unique and specific to the demographic we're trying to achieve. And we need to place that, just as importantly, on the platforms where they are consuming it. And we're going to try things. Right now at the league office, we've decided with our resources, we want to make sure we're producing and delivering content specifically for TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, as opposed to trying to do something for every platform. And those are the 3 weeks our data shows will deliver the best ROI for us and the best reach. And each one of those platforms requires a different type of content, and all our clubs are doing the same. Right, last week or 2 weeks ago, TSN actually broadcast an entire game live on TikTok from one of their social folks on the sideline, shooting off a phone in vertical. And that is, like, I'm telling you, even a year ago, that would have been unimaginable that the league rights holder would put an entire live game onto a different platform, a competitive platform in some cases, in this case, a partner. And I think that's what we've all understood. It's about reach. It's about getting this content as far and wide as possible, and in the ways that our consumers want to take it all in.
Stewart, there's no doubt that in this province and hell, maybe across the country, the biggest party is going to be at Princess Auto Stadium tonight. But there's no bigger party than the Grey Cup. The Grey Cup is back in Winnipeg this year in November. Cannot wait to be part of that week. But just wanted to ask you about, Winnipeg as a host, and what kind of impact can a great host city have, not only on the experience of everybody at the game, but, on the league and growing, continuing to make the Grey Cup that special event every year that it is for the CFL and the country.
Well, look, I think it's going to be the greatest social of the year. There's no doubt, and that's the attitude that the entire Bombers organization has as a host. I spent a full day with them yesterday. Talked to many of the staff members. Spent a lot of time with Wade. I love their perspective. They do think it should be an official day off Thursday, Friday, and Monday because you need a recovery day of that weekend, and that social aspect is meaningful because that's what every Grey Cup is. It's so unique. I've been so fortunate in my past career to have attended many, many championships, major championships from almost every sport. And all of them have been fantastic. However, the Grey Cup is unique and different in the way it brings community together. It brings a country together. We all know as you walk the streets and you see jerseys from all 9 teams, walking side by side, having a great time together and celebrating the game that we love. I think it is impactful. So in the community, for those who are lucky enough to either be attending the game or simply in Winnipeg to enjoy the festivities, they're going to get that feel. Winnipeg is going, and the Bombers are going to deliver on that. And then I think it's also important that we reflect that incredible party, the incredible celebration to the country. TSN, RDS, and many of our other platforms are going to try and do the same thing.
Hey, just on the way out, I know there's been a lot of talk in social media spaces as the season gets going on where the league is. I mean, everyone loves this league, wants it to succeed, wants it to grow, and people have different opinions on how we get there. Specifically to the on-field product, is it your opinion that things need to be considered to maybe change the game, or does the unique nature of the Canadian Football League, the Canadian Football League rules that have been around, is that what the CFL is? And this is more about some of the other things we've talked about in this interview up until this point.
Yeah, I think that I will start by saying I'm going to try and keep myself as open-minded as possible to every conversation. I don't mind provocative conversations. I actually welcome them because it means we're going to have a discussion. We should talk about what are the pros and cons and consider everything from tradition and history to evolution and progress, and collectively we as a team, and then ultimately me and the board of governors are going to figure out the right path forward to continue to grow the game, because you're right. We all have the same objective. We all want to see this game thrive. And so you won't ever hear me say, no, I'm never considering something. I think that's simply not a feasible strategy or practicality in 2025. There's too much disruption around us. We are in the attention economy and we are fighting for attention, and we better make sure we're evolving and progressing in order to do so in the light of major competition. So I can't give you an answer other than I love the game that we have right now, and I will be continually looking on ways to improve it.
Stewart, really appreciate you jumping on the program today. It's great to have you on. Congratulations on the new gig. I think everyone that loves the Canadian Football League wishes you the greatest success moving forward, and have a good time tonight. Listen, if you can't have a good time at Princess Auto, you better check your pulse. I'll just say that. But I think you're in for a good one tonight. And hopefully what's happening here in Winnipeg can start happening in some of the other markets, because it has been just amazing to see what's happened over the last decade or so with the Winnipeg Football Club. And I think we all want to see that happen in every CFL market, regardless of what team you're pulling for on the field.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm just telling you, I'm not bringing earplugs. I'm ready to soak in this atmosphere at full throttle.
Thanks so much, Stewart. All the best.
Thanks, you too.
All right, there's Stewart Johnston, Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, with us on CFL. Thanks to Lucas and the gang for helping us set that up. And great to have the commish here. And he's gonna see what it's all about at Princess Auto Stadium tonight, which is it's just turned into the jewel of the CFL. And it's funny. I was just on the air with Matt Awanek in Edmonton. We were doing the lock shop. Dusty's calling the game tonight. He's here in the PEG. He'll be calling the game tonight for TSN. And like every now and then I'll have conversations where it just sort of hits me, talking to people that love the CFL and other markets, and the way they look at what is happening here in Winnipeg. And listen, have the Bombers been great on the field? Absolutely. And winning is a big part of what they've built. But I think Stewart Johnston nailed it. I mean, and I'll give, I'll start at the top with Wade Miller. The Bombers get it, and they know that people have a lot of different options to spend their money, and committing to things like season tickets. You might have to miss a game or so, maybe I'll wait. There's all sorts of reasons why people won't do things. They focus on the reasons that people do things, and they show their appreciation for them, and they've got as loyal a fan base as I think we've seen maybe in the history of the Bomber organization. Maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, going back, to, when I was a kid, but I haven't seen anything like this. And it really is the model and the new standard, or the bar, if you will, being set in the CFL. We're going to see it again tonight at Princess Auto Stadium. Speaking of Princess Auto, huge thanks to them, not only for what they do for the Winnipeg Football Club, the beautiful home that we'll be filling tonight to see the Bombers and Elks play, but for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And of course, Princess Auto is synonymous with the Peg. Founded right here in Winnipeg, headquartered here in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast across the country with 3 locations in Manitoba, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. And as always, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. This is a great time to get out on the water, folks. I know there'll be a lot of people going fishing on the weekend. If you're thinking about maybe really stepping it up for a special fly-in fishing experience unlike any other you've had, you got to check out Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I'm going to be there in a couple weeks with our winner from the HSC Foundation auction. Cannot wait for that. So I'll have some nice pictures and video for you, but you should check out aikenslake.com, where you can find out more information on a variety of options to enjoy what Aikens Lake is all about. And listen, as great as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality of the Aikens team and the Trent family, I think, is even better if that's possible. aikenslake.com for more information and availability on the 2025 fishing season. And, of course, you can always check them out on their social channels at Aikens Lake for more of what the Aikens experience is all about. And, hey, Saturday, Sunday, big sale down at F Apparel. It's the everything under the sun sale, folks. As we get into wedding season, if you're kind of thinking, damn, I need to up my menswear game, this is the time to do it with 15% off everything under the sun in the store. The 28th and 29th only. So, as I mentioned, if you're around the city on the weekend and you think you need to pop into F Apparel, this is a great time to do it. Custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. Best selection of menswear accessories around. And hey, if you are in a wedding party or getting married, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for you and the wedding party when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. 190 Smith Street downtown. Go online, F, that's EPH Apparel, for more information or to make an appointment to come in for a fitting. All right. Murat Ates is going to join us in a couple minutes. Let's get Remis back in here for a minute. Good conversation with Stewart Johnston there, Reem, and I think he's going to be in for quite the experience, seeing what Blue Bomber football in the stands and at Princess Auto Stadium is all about.
Yeah, very cool to have the new CFL commissioner on the program, talking about taking the job and what he sees in the league going forward. And yeah, touring all the teams. What better team to visit than the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, selling out game after game. I think tonight's I haven't seen the official announcement, but there's very limited availability for sure. So take a look here and see how you can apply what the Bombers are doing. And I found it very interesting that he gave a shout out to Wade Miller and the customer service team and the great job they're doing and how they treat all their season ticket holders. I think the fans have certainly felt that, and we've seen that in our chat as well. And is that something that can be applied to other teams? But the one thing the Bombers have done more than anyone the last couple of years is winning, and winning certainly brings people in the seats. I know we're going to have Eddie Steele talking about the Elks going forward, and there's a lot of talk there. Why can't they get people to show up? Oh, it's the name. I think the bottom line for them is they had the longest losing streak at home in pro sports history.
4 years.
Yeah,
4 years without winning a game.
Who wants to go if we're going to guarantee loss every game? No one wants to go when we've had such a great, we're almost taking it for granted here with the Bombers and even with the Jets this year. They won during the regular season. They won almost every game at home. They had the best home record in the league. It was incredible, and winning does bring people out. But I think having a great experience too, as people go to the Bomber games, as he said, hang out around the concourse or the tailgate area or wherever, and it is become a social event in addition to the great football that we've been watching.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. As they say, Eddie Steele coming up a little later on. We do have an update from Elliotte Friedman that just popped on the feed while we were talking to Stewart Johnston. Elliotte Friedman of Sportsnet tweeting out just in the last 15 minutes, hearing Nikolai Ehlers has informed the Jets he will go to free agency on July 1st. Door not closed on Manitoba, but will test the market and see what is out there. And, I guess this takes the 8-year deal off the table. But I can't really, at this point, Remis, I can't really blame Nikolai Ehlers for wanting to see what's out there. This is a pretty shallow free agent class. He has been an incredible member of the Winnipeg Jets, but a guy that would be in demand for a lot of teams. And, keeping all of his options open and seeing what's available on July 1st, I think certainly is part of the plan. And can't really blame him for doing it. I like the fact, just from a Jet fan and someone that would love to see Ehlers return, nice to see that they made a point of saying the door's not closed on Manitoba and Winnipeg, but at the same time, as we've been for the last couple of weeks, realizing that there's going to be a lot of other takers. Ehlers has earned his right to go to free agency, and it sounds like that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, just based on everything that we've been talking about, this isn't really news, but it is now official. And, there's a difference between this and Toronto and Mitch Marner, where Brad Trelving said today that Mitch is moving on, and it's been reported that he's going to hit the market. So, I think you're going to prepare yourself to be hurt. And I think, is this like soft breaking up by Nikolai Ehlers, or is he legitimate? And we'll circle back with the Jets. I think if you're the Jets, you got to have some kind of contingency plan. If you don't already, I'm sure that they have discussed this, that, hey, Nikolai Ehlers is not going to be on the team. Who is going to be second line left wing with, Taves and Perfetti or Mestikov, Perfetti? I don't know what their line plans are, but it's going to be tough to replace what he brought to the power play. We saw how it looked, and this is just step one, and we'll see what happens July 1 when it happens quickly. We talked with Michael Hutchinson yesterday saying, hey, you got to be able to make decisions, and I wonder about Marner, if that is going to impact where Ehlers goes as well. So a couple moving parts, and I don't know. It seems like this is just a way of shutting them down gently instead of just saying, hey, what, this road's closed.
Yeah, well, listen, I guess, but if he gets to July 1st and the Winnipeg Jets have the best offer, or there's a couple offers of teams that you'd be going to expecting not to make the playoffs for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot to be done right now. But to your point, it is different. Mitch Marner said, see ya, I'm out of here. I am not coming back. That hasn't been the case with Nikolai Ehlers. And I will say this, if Ehlers does sign somewhere, which sounds like it is likely, but I think many of us still have hope that maybe something can be worked out to keep him here. Unlike a lot of players that have either demanded a trade or gone elsewhere afterwards when they've had the opportunity, I think Nikolai Ehlers' return, we'll get to this once he actually signs somewhere if that happens, but he will be welcomed as positively in Winnipeg as almost any player that's left up until this point. I'm pretty confident of that. By the way, I'm looking in the chat right now, And, we were just talking about the customer service that the Bombers have done for their fans and letting people know they're appreciated and just find a way to make things work for people. I see a number of people have mentioned the name Carol Barrett in the chat, and a special shout out to her because, and I think Wade Miller would be the first one to tell you, she probably has been the MVP of the organization of the Bombers for years and years. And just the fact that mere mention, not even with a name, the amount of people in the chat that are mentioning her name tells you that they had a special one, and someone I think really set the tone for the way the Blue Bombers have treated their season ticket holders and stakeholders over the last number of years. So shout out to Carol, because people do notice that stuff, and I think that's been a big reason why they've been able to get and keep the amount of season ticket holders do this great run that they've had, in addition to putting a hell of a product out on the football field game after game. We will talk more about this game tonight coming up with Eddie Steele. We'll do a little bit of draft talk with Grant McCagg a little later on. But coming up right now, we're going to welcome in Murat Ates of The Athletic. And this segment's brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers, who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load. And it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about how good the Toyota Tundra looks anywhere it goes? It is guaranteed to be turning heads. Available from $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR with $71.99 down. Hybrid options available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. All right. The eve of the first round of the draft. And Murat Ates of The Athletic joins us now. Murat, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Oh, one sec. Sorry.
Hold on a sec. Remis has you muted there.
Okay, I think he's good now.
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. In that Chevy press conference today, and there we go. I was hearing a little bit of echo in me for a second there. All's well, other than those. Good to see you. How are you? Maybe we should talk some NHL Jets.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course, we heard from Kevin Cheveldayoff this morning. I mean, I kind of want to get into the draft and the Ehlers situation, but any big takeaways from the pre-availability before we see what happens over this next week from the GM this morning?
Yeah, we talked more about the draft than some of the key roster decisions facing the Jets. But probably the number one takeaway, and we'll circle back to that, would be when Cheveldayoff was asked about Ehlers, he said, well, we'll talk to him until we can't, or we're saying congratulations or thank you. That was the least public-facing optimism about Ehlers that I think I've heard from Cheveldayoff. And then, of course, you've seen Elliot Friedman's tweet. It's kind of what we've expected all along. But when one of the insiders says it lends some officiality to it, I don't think anybody's shocked here today. Other notes, Brad Lambert had recovered from his ankle injury in time to possibly help the Jets, or at least skate with them in round 3 of the playoffs last year. Nikita Chibrikov, his injury is a little bit longer term. He's still rehabbing over the course of the summer. Jets have many thoughts and plans for this remote draft coming up, and that's where we spent most of our time.
It was, we played a few of the clips, and the one that really kind of stood out to me, and I can't say that I'm surprised, but the free agent that has not yet been signed, that will be signed at the beginning of next week, is Jonathan Toews. Was really interesting to hear Kevin Cheveldayoff talk about and I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised when we saw that Instagram post that he put out that sort of blew me away. I mean, this has the potential to be a pretty special signing for the Winnipeg Jets in a lot of ways. And again, we'll see what Jonathan Toews is as a player, but as a teammate, as part of the organization, the intangibles seem to already be on the table when you hear from Kevin Cheveldayoff.
Yeah, I mean, Cheveldayoff is fired up about his signing, to be sure, and Jonathan Toews is fired up about having signed based on all the reports and Toews' Instagram post. And has a signing ever immediately had this many people in the province of Manitoba share their last name? We're all the Mennonites out right now. Maybe there have been some Smiths in the world, but I don't know. Toews has got to be there's probably a lot of Taves jerseys with or without Jonathan involved already in this province. So that's kind of a cool thing. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement. When I see news like this, I sometimes think about like, what's the pie chart of fan responses to this? What am I really picking up from the readers at The Athletic, on Twitter, all that sort of stuff, on Blue Sky here? And the overwhelming majority of fans whose, I guess, reactions I've seen seem to think that this is an absolute home run win, almost regardless of what the outcome is on the ice. And I've never seen that kind of positivity and optimism about a signing. It owes to Taves' homecoming, his reputation in Winnipeg, and of course the Stanley Cup's Conn Smythe Olympic golds and all that sort of stuff. And I'd say that's the majority of it. I've heard from fans too who are concerned, who don't like his role in the Kyle Beach situation. I've heard those voices as well. I've talked to some people behind the scenes about that sort of stuff. It's not literally unanimous, but I think it's pretty close. And just the degree of joy in Jetsland, I think, when a player of Taves' stature signs is I don't know, I've been almost surprised, almost struck by how big it is.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. And, obviously in what we do when we're bumping into people or talking, it's inevitable that the hockey team is probably going to come up. But, I mean, I've had people that usually are sort of on the periphery of certainly maybe the getting under the hood like we do on this program and talking about it, that, the first thing they said, oh my God, Jonathan Taves is coming here. And, and they're not even thinking about, how does the lineup shake up? I mean, it just seems to be a huge tip of the cap to the organization to be in this situation for a player like this with this resume, with the amount of teams that were interested in his services, decide to come here right now. And I mean, I'm fascinated to see how it goes. I've said on this show a number of times, NHL player X being out for a couple years, I think I'd come with a level of really limited expectations. But Jonathan Taves is not just an average NHL player. He's probably the greatest player that this city and this province has ever produced. He has literally ticked off everything any player could want when they begin a National Hockey League career. And Murat, considering all of that, I will admit my expectations are higher for Jonathan Taves on the ice, because I really don't think that he would even for a second consider this type of a comeback if he didn't think that he could be a very, very good version of a player that had been one of the best in the hockey in the NHL of his generation.
I mean, imagine having that kind of reputation precede you, or that kind of clout in your industry that, hey, I haven't even done this job in 2 years, 2.5 years at its fullest. And the last time I did, I wasn't actually that great at it. I was dealing with some other stuff. And the mere fact that I intend to do it again is like, okay, everybody seems to assume it's going to go really well. To me, it's a little bit optimistic, but at the same time, I do understand that, that Taves is not one of those players whose work ethic you would impeach, or whose intangibles in terms of the on-ice stuff that you would doubt. He really does have that clout where he says, hey, I'm ready. And also people will look at Landeskog. Also people will look at Marchand. People might even look outside the sport at the Djokovic's, the Messi's, the Ronaldos, the folks who are approaching 40, if not 40, who are delivering at a high level on some of the world's biggest stages. It's interesting that folks seem to assume Taves can hit that. And whenever I even express, let's wait and see, and you're giving me a bit of wait and see as well, like, to be clear, I feel like I'm the one holding back the party just by saying, hey, if he's a third line center, that's a win. That's a positive outcome given where he's been, what age he is, and the health as well. And I think that would be just fine if you're the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, from where I'm at, as I said, I think my expectations are more because of who it is. And listen, you mentioned that being away for the last couple of years. And listen, his healing journey is a unique one. Everything that he'd been through, first of all, it was just being able to live kind of a normal life. And now to the point where he feels that he can come back. Obviously, I mean, you believe in the person, you believe in the player. But on top of that, Murat, I'm not sure that the path that he's taken to get to this point and the fact that he doesn't have the mileage from an extra 2.5 seasons of NHL hockey might not actually be a positive for him when he gets out there this year.
Yeah, I'm the negative Nelly on this one. When I think of players in their late 30s, I mean, that's a very real consideration. Wear and tear, knocks, bruises and bumps and, concussion, all those types of things that can add up. He
had a lot of miles on the odometer when he went out. I mean, this is a guy that played from the second he got into the league. And I mean, we're not just talking 80 games. I mean, he was usually adding another 14, 21, 25 games in the playoffs every year. I mean, this guy played a ton of hockey.
Yeah, and I do respect that. I think that 137 playoff games is more than some people on the Jets roster have played in the regular season, which is a little bit wild depending on where we're looking at the depth chart. I worry about explosiveness, right? That's what I worry about for a 37-year-old player, is that you're not going to be able to win battles in the same way necessarily, turn corners on people in the same way necessarily. So it becomes more of a cerebral game, more of a hockey IQ game. And I think that Jonathan Toews ranks well in those regards, to be clear, compared to the NHL sample. But no amount of rest and recovery over these last several years is going to put as much acceleration in his feet as he had when he was 25 years old. I just don't believe that. So that's why I have a little bit of if he's a third line center, that's a victory. That's a great a good free agent signing. If he's playing second line center minutes and winning them, because the best case scenario of Toews is he has that hard to play against angle. So if he is capable of second line minutes and he does win them, that really does solve a lot of things. There are wins available here, and my door is open to see them. I'm just perhaps the most cautious amongst those I speak to these days.
Yeah, well, listen, at this point, I think there is a lot of excitement. And I think, for all the other reasons we talked about, I mean, arguably the biggest, most impactful free agent signing the Winnipeg Jets have done. And that's part of the reason, when we get to next week, this is not traditionally a time where the Jets steal the show and do big business. And, in a lot of ways, they sort of did that before it even started. That being said, we know Jonathan Toews is going to be part of this team moving forward, and you hope that he'll be able to help the younger players. I actually think that a lot of what he brings will probably rub off even on some of the veterans, the Mark Scheifele's, the Josh Morrisseys, and certainly there's no downside there. But I think the reason why, Murat, maybe people are so uniformly positive about this is because of the way the contract is put together. I think it would be a different story if they said, yeah, they've signed Jonathan Toews to a 1-year, $8 million contract, and we'll see what happens. This is a lower salary. There's a ton of bonuses that are put in. It does give them flexibility this year with the salary cap as well, depending on what else happens and other player moves. But what did you think about the way that the contract was structured with a lower base salary, and then if he plays a lot, if he helps the team win games, if they go far in the playoffs, compensated for that as well?
Yeah, my hot take, my first reaction on just knowing it was going to be bonus laden before the details were announced was, this is great. That's the perfect scenario. You want it tied in some way to what he's capable of, especially for any opinion that you or I could have today. He's one of one, right? Jonathan Toews going through his journey is one of one. This could go any number of ways. So when that's the case, tying it to what actually happens, it makes the most sense. And as Cheveldayoff mentioned today, some of that flexibility where if he does hit all those bonuses, they can be pushed to next year's cap, does help a little bit. That all made a ton of sense to me. And my hot take was, yes, that's perfect. When I see, looking back, that they're tied to games played as opposed to performance on the ice, that's where I, again, just a little bit of nervous. Not like that's a mistake, not that, you see some people, critics will say, hey, I definitely know this is going horribly. I think that's absolutely impossible to know from here too. My concern is, he is Jonathan Toews. He has his pedigree and his history. He's got 19 on his back. You see the way all your leaders look up to him and respect him. He's got the Toews name bar. How are you, as Scott Arniel, not going to tap him for that next shift, for that next defensive zone draw, if you have him available to you? So Toews, if he does play, for the Winnipeg Jets to really succeed here, he's got to get to a certain level. If he makes full bonuses, hits his $7 million total, and he's been a fourth line center, that's a pretty problematic contract. If he offers anything close to what he once was, then it becomes a win. So again, think it's positive, and I think it's important to acknowledge that it may not be perfect depending on what happens.
Now, it's great to know that Taves is going to be in the mix. We have far less clarity on one Ehlers. In fact, if one was going to bet one way or the other, it's probably on a result that is not very popular amongst Jet fans, because I think most of them would love to see Ehlers stick around. You mentioned Elliot Friedman reported that he will go to July 1st, so there will not be an 8-year contract. Plan A would be to re-sign Nick. If Nick signs elsewhere, Murat, what do you gather that plan B is for the Winnipeg Jets, and how will that change what happens on July 1st, if not even beforehand this weekend at the draft, if they feel like it's not going to end up in their favor?
Yeah, talking to some of the insiders, and just watching and reading at The Athletic and all that sort of stuff, Al on TSN, all that, it seems as though major player-for-player deals could drag out this summer. So that's one caveat. Contingency plans for Nikolai Ehlers. If they sign him, they're a cap team, probably, almost definitely a cap team, and those bonuses for Taves will be next year. And this is a team that's all in, basically from day one of the season. That's not probably what's going to happen unless the market just stuns Ehlers with low offers. So contingencies likely involve Winnipeg not being a cap team, at least to start the season. Probably they involve some middle six truculent talent is a phrase that has come all into my mind a lot. Andrew Mangiapane, I believe David Pagnotta included Winnipeg on his list of teams interested. That's a name I've been pushing for a little while here for the Jets. Great forechecker, great at puck recoveries. Offense is of a middle sixth level, but not beyond that. I think that there's probably a value contract available, depending on where he signs. Will Cully out of New York, another physical, hard player to play against. A Tanner Jeannot reclamation project is a UFA. This is the type of, maybe there is a hard to play against, but capable of playing in the middle six angle that the Jets will shoot for. And for their sake, ideally not at that $8 million range. Probably they'll save some money if and when Ehlers signs somewhere else.
If you're picking at the periphery of the free agent market, as the Winnipeg Jets normally do, is there a guy out? I mean, listen, I think I can answer my own question. There isn't a Nikolai Ehlers out there that is going to be available that will do those same things. But I do wonder what that does to the rest of the lineup, the pressure that it puts on the top line to perform, and what we can expect out of a second line that doesn't have Nikolai Ehlers, who, when he was out there on the ice, was clearly the play driver, allowing to gain possession and, doing everything that Nikolai does.
Yeah, for me, Ehlers, that is something that you're missing without him. And you're also missing puck recovery on the power play. I think people, if you really want to zoom into some of the micro stats, the amount of times that the Jets would miss or rebound a shot on the power play and Ehlers was first to the wall and then Winnipeg would regain possession, part of Winnipeg having its best power play ever was his promotion there. So yeah, Jonathan Taves probably a pretty good option to put there as well. That's one element that you'd miss too. I don't think that there's an Ehlers clone or anything close to it on the market. Marty Necas has another year left in his deal, and I think he's close in some regards. For me, the perfect free agent, unfortunately, doesn't exist. You'd want him to be a right shot. You'd want him to be capable of playing in the top six. You'd want him to be able to produce a sizable amount of offense, maybe even contribute some faceoffs won, because the Jets, as it stands, could be 11 of 13 forwards playing left-handed. That's a disadvantage in some regards. The closest player I can find to that, Huss, is Morgan Geekie of Strathclair, Manitoba, and the Boston Bruins, but he's a restricted free agent, and the Bruins should, unless he has a ridiculous contract ask, be in position to retain him. Otherwise, I think it's just accepting that, no, there isn't one player who does it. So pick the ones that you like and go after them as hard as you can and accept that, this is a change. This could be a meaningful change in the direction.
Murat, I know you mentioned Mangiapane probably more than a month ago on this program. We've sort of been paying attention to him. Another guy that's up in your latest at The Athletic that I've been thinking about a lot this week, and we've been talking about on the show, is Brian Rust, whose trade protection expires at the end of the month and, would be available to be dealt anywhere in the league after the 1st of July. Digging in a little bit more, kind of surprising, like productivity. He's coming off the 2 best seasons of his career with 31 goals last year, 28 before. And that's a player with 3 years of term. Now, he's also 33 years old. So it's more of a short-term fill than it would be getting another person in that Ehlers spot that would be signed long-term for what the Jets presumably would have to sign for Ehlers. But thoughts on Rust or maybe other players in that trade market that, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, you're certainly making a call and that are intriguing about potentially filling that hole of Ehlers up front?
Yeah, I like Rust's production, and more specifically, I like his finishing ability. You get him in a good spot, so you can put pucks in the net, and that is a valuable quality at any stage. He's not a player who drives play at this stage, so he would need, let's say you're imagining Perfetti, Taves, Rust, or something to that effect. He would need the good version, healthy version, productive version of Jonathan Taves, or one more step forward from Cole Perfetti. And I think that is reasonable to ask for at Perfetti's stage of development. He would probably produce and depend on his line mates a bit for that. Things I like, 3 years is not a horrible term. 5.3 million? I don't have it in front of me, but it's low fives.
5-1.
5-1? Okay, that's a manageable cap hit. And what you see with a lot of really good cup contending teams is they throw these kinds of darts. It doesn't always work out. See Edmonton moving on from Evander Kane, or Victor Arvidsson's probably next from them. Sometimes it does. See Carter Verhaeghe in Florida, or any of the number of times that these types of acquisitions do shake out. But teams that win are willing to trade on these maybes if they think there's a fit. And then they're also capable of moving on from them if they don't work out. So Rust, I do have some time for, despite the lack of play driving. He's an interesting one.
Murat, as far as the draft goes, you think the Jets make their pick? I mean, I think it's usually the more likely. I just think that in this time for the Winnipeg Jets, with the addition of Taves, potentially Ehlers moving on, the young guys that they have that are sort of in the system coming in, and picking at 28, if there was a taker for that, wanted a pick that had an NHL ready player that's signed that can come in and help, I kind of lean that it's more likely that they would potentially trade a pick on draft day for a player, but it's probably still more likely that that doesn't happen. Where are you at on the pick? And do you think the Jets might be active before we even get to free agency over the course of this weekend?
Yeah, I'm imagining, just based on what I hear, and one of my great pleasures is reading my colleagues' work at The Athletic. We have people in so many markets, and it seems like a GM consensus is player for player, or capable players moving right now is a challenge. And I say that as the Paterka news drops and all that, there are players being moved. So I'm really believing that the Jets end up making that pick, or if there is a trade involving it, it's a few spots forward or back to get the guy that they want, or some other team comes calling for 28 in exchange for 31, or I'm just giving that as an example. I think the Jets make the pick, and I think that Jonathan Taves as a signing helps buy them time to say, hey, this guy could plug that hole. We could keep that pick. We'll make it now, and then if we need help, we can trade next year's pick at the deadline.
You mentioned the Paterka deal. Interestingly enough, your colleague Michael Russo in Minnesota, reporting that the Wild offered Marco Rossi plus to Buffalo for Paterka, and it didn't get it done. And he ended up getting traded to the Utah, Mammoth. I was about to call them the Utah Grizzlies. Shout out to the IHL. The Utah Mammoth, for Kesselring on the blue line and Jake Doan. What did you make of that trade?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on Doan and Kesselring, but I do think that they're better players than the internet seems to have given them credit for today.
100%.
My take was, okay, to be honest. And I think that The unfortunate thing with Rossi is probably he's like a buy low candidate right now, which is good for anybody shopping for him. They see his size. They see what just happened with the hard to play against Panthers, just steamrolling through everybody on the way to the Stanley Cup. And they're like, well, this guy can't have success on my team. I need a Sam Bennett. And I think that get good players, keep good players is useful. If you can get a player like Rossi for a decent price, and then you could supplement him with players who are a little more physical, who do open up space, you're laughing. Like, that's a good, useful player. And I'm imagining, though, that the market doesn't view him as a winner right now because of what's won the last pair of Stanley Cups. And so then when you've got a Doan available to you and you think, well, geez, that guy's going to play through a wall for you, and Kesselring's a promising player as well, like maybe that just seems to a manager more to be like, what's the recipe for success right now?
Yeah, I think people are also realizing maybe, and to be honest, like I don't think many people watched Utah last year. I don't think 95% of people on the social platforms could pick Kesselring out of a police lineup amongst other NHL players. But when you do look, I mean, a 6'4" right shot defenseman that put up 29 or 30 points, that has a lot of value right now. And listen, size is something that more and more GMs, I think, in the aftermath of this Florida run are looking at and trying to position themselves for. And listen, Peterka is going to score, and scoring is always going to be important. You can't win if you don't put it past the netminder. But when you look at Buffalo, who has had really talented players, first-round picks, 2 of them on the blue line, solidifying that back end really did seem to be like a goal of this deal. But you can't overlook the fact that those 2 players come in at $1.4 million a year and $900,000 a year. So maybe there was some money to it too. Peterka did get an extension, and it seemed like he got almost UFA money by giving up just 1 year of unrestricted free agency. Any thoughts on what he ended up signing for with Utah?
What's the number? I actually don't have it.
I think it's 7.7 by 5. And I think the estimate was probably in and around 7.3 based on what he'd done last year if he was on a UFA. But again, very young player, talented, and he's going to get a fresh start. Just not a particularly big guy, not a guy that has done really much defensively, although you could say that for a lot of members of the Buffalo Sabres. And, he goes into a Utah team that has a lot of talented young players. You just wonder if that'll be enough to put them over the mix and what they're losing in guys that maybe don't have the gaudy numbers that Peterka did, but can help you win games in different ways is the right path forward for Utah.
Well, I like Peterka's take on this because 5 years from now, he's going to be 28 years old, and the cap is going to be, substantially higher than it already is right now. So part of the sticker shock in the short term is, well, actually, the cap did just go up by a sizable percentage, right? Like if Nikolai Ehlers, for example, gets I think it's like 9.1 million for Ehlers would be the same cap hit percentage as Scheifele got at 8.5. So things have changed. The market has changed. So I do see some sticker shock in that number. I think Peterka will score, and I think he'll get paid well 5 years from now as well. And Utah is one of the most interesting teams in the league. They built up so many assets for so long. They can afford to part with good, young, cheap players like they did. They can go big game hunting a little bit. They have plenty of cap space to sign that kind of deal as well. I think Peterka isn't somebody who immediately makes me think, okay, that team's over the top now. But there are enough pieces coming and young players growing and good things happening there that, they're not that far. And I'm not sure when the threshold moment is going to be for them. That's coming in the next year or two.
Yeah, their problem is that they're in a pretty tough neighborhood in that Central Division with a lot of good teams, a lot of teams that don't seemingly have much time for taking a step back. They're looking to move forward. Last one for you on the way out. 28th overall tomorrow, assuming the Jets keep the pick. Is there a player or two you have your eyes on when talking to the Scott Wheelers of the world that you think might be a good fit, or you might think that the Jets might think is a good fit?
Well, the first time, and I am so sorry for the name pronunciation, but Brzestowicz, I struggle. Henry, big right-handed defenseman, right? The first time I knew anything about him was a Scott Wheeler preview earlier this season. The moment I read it, I thought, this is a Winnipeg Jets draft pick. I felt this is the type of big right-handed defenseman that they need. Mobile, teammate of Jacob Julian. The Jets would be all over that. They know this guy's game inside and out. Memorial Cup champ, I believe. Am I not wrong? And then with the opportunity to grow next year, I think his minutes are going to explode for the London Knights next season. And then I read Corey Pronman's review of the same player and thought, yes, this is a Winnipeg Jets pick. Both of them picked him in their last mock drafts heading into the draft. And I'm thinking if this player is available, that the Jets it would really behoove the Jets to take him. Another player who I've heard the Jets have done plenty of due diligence on is Riker Lee, who is in the midst of a growth spurt, albeit only to about 6 foot, as I'm understood it right now, and meant to have some of the best hands and hockey skills and puck skills in the draft. More of a middle of the first round talent. He still needs to sort of catch up to his growth spurt in terms of his wheels coming back, based on what I've read and been told. But that could be a kind of bet on a high ceiling that the Jets may be interested in making at 28. And beyond that, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets go reaching for a goalie earlier than the 5th or 6th round as they normally do. Those are the 3 things I've got in my mind right now.
Murat's latest to The Athletic, Winnipeg's next move after Jonathan Toews, Nikolai Ehlers, and contingencies for his departure is up right now at The Athletic. And I imagine based on tomorrow, the weekend, next week, it's going to be a very busy week for you and your colleagues over the course of the next 7+ days. Yeah, keep it plugged into The Athletic. Scott Wheeler is amazing. Corey Pronman is amazing. It is a real treat to be able to just take this expertise, pivot it towards the Winnipeg Jets, and know that the information is good. So yeah, absolutely excited for the weekend. We had a great meeting actually with Scott Wheeler on the show a couple days ago. So if you missed that, you can check it out on YouTube or one of the earlier podcasts. Murat, have a great one tonight and enjoy the draft this weekend. Thanks for doing this, pal. Thanks, Les. Good stuff. There's Murat Ates again. Theathletic.com is where you'll find all of his content, and give him a follow at WPG Murat on X. All right. We will talk a little more draft with Grant McCagg coming up in a minute. But first off, we're going to get back to tonight's game with the Bombers and the Elks with Winnipeg native Eddie Steele. Hey, if you're heading down to the game tonight or just realizing you need to up your Bomber look for Princess Auto Stadium, nowhere better to go than Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. Tons of new Bomber gear in and many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. Some really cool new era stuff that they got in for this season. It's all waiting for you. And listen, while you're there, summer is here. So soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, the best selection in town. Tons of bikes in their massive bike section. And for all you lake lifers or campers, got to check out the biggest Yeti section in town. It's all at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merch drops and sale information. Boston Pizza, ready to go for the weekend. All your CFL games on. Big Canada soccer game on Sunday afternoon if you're looking for a spot to watch that. And, of course, the brand new BP summer menu hitting the restaurants as well, including something that I have not yet tried, but I'm very intrigued, a Cactus Cuts Sunday. If you can believe that. We'll have to do a review on that on the show at some point. But hey, getting together with your gang, whether it's patio season, you want to be inside at the bar, taking the family, no better place to do it than Boston Pizza. And again, you can always order online and get it hot and fast to your door by ordering at bostonpizza.com. All right, we're going to head out to Edmonton, welcome in Eddie Steele to talk Bombers Elks tonight. First up, though, let's give a big cheers before tonight's game. Speaking of tailgating, to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, Bombers Elks tonight. Let's head out to Edmonton and welcome in a longtime former Winnipegger, Pride of Kelvin High School, and the U of M, longtime CFLer, Eddie Steele, back on WST. Eddie, what's up? It's great to have you back on the show.
It's good to be with you, brother. It's been a long time, man. I'm out. Everybody knows I'm loyal to the double E out here in Edmonton. I didn't wear this blue for the Bombers, man.
Just a subtle what's up to all your friends back here in Winnipeg today. Should be a good one tonight. Eddie, let me ask you this. I mean, you've been in that community since you finished up playing, and I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, this Edmonton franchise has been one of the jewels of the CFL for so long, and it has gone into a really tough spot throughout this Chris Jones era, and now coming out of it. I mean, before we even get to this game, how would you categorize the urgency of the organization, the new ownership, to turn this thing around and get on a path forward and start getting some positive momentum, both on the football field and in the community?
Plus, the desperation level is real. I mean, you were being politically correct when you said the lows that they've reached. This organization went into the toilets, man. Let's call a spade a spade. They were terrible. They had lost a record amount of home games in a row. They haven't put out a good product on the field. And the people that they had off of the field running the organization weren't doing so swell of a job either. So there's a lot of maintenance and recouping to do right now. And it all starts on the field, Huss, as you know. You can have all the promotions, you can do all the wonderful things, say all the things in the papers to the fans. But at the end of the day, you got to win games. And this organization has failed to do so as of late. And it doesn't get easier. You're playing a Winnipeg Blue Bombers team who is the cream of the crop in the CFL. They are the class of the league. And it's so interesting when we talk about the fan bases and you look at the stadiums, especially this past weekend, there's a lot to do about the emptiness and how many people are there. I always tell people, well, turn to Winnipeg. In this time where the CFL is losing fans left and right, as people say, look at Winnipeg. They sell out every game. And you know why, Huss? Because they win over there. And it all comes down to winning, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt that the product and all the losing took a huge toll on it. And listen, for sure, the product that the Bombers have put together has gotten us to this part. There's also a lot of stuff off the field. Wade Miller and the people that he employs have done a great job. But it is possible, Ed. I mean, think about it. Even when you were at Kelvin or at U of M, I mean, we're not talking about this sort of support. Now, again, we'd also gone through a very long drought where the team hadn't won a Grey Cup and they hadn't been a very competitive team. But I'm with you. I mean, I think there's a lot that the Elks organization needs to do in the community, but nothing is going to replace, especially for an organization that had 5 straight Grey Cups, that has this incredible history. Nothing is going to replace putting a competitive product on the field. And that's something that we just simply haven't seen in more than half a decade in Edmonton.
No, we really haven't, and it's the way that they've done the losing too, not just consecutively, but just not even being competitive. And then it's the slow starts. We're now into year 3 or 4 even, Huss, where it's slow start after slow start. Chris Jones one season went 0-9. Then another season went 0-7. Then another season went 0-3. Now here we are at 0-2. So there is an appetite out here. I know it. I speak to so many people who have a desire to want to get back on this bandwagon, but it's hard to jump on when they are losing games. And I tell people this constantly. You show me a Super Bowl champion or a Grey Cup champion, I would love for you to show me their stadium where they're winning games, going to the playoffs, and it's empty. It's just not the case. People want to see winners.
Yeah, it's true. And listen, I think, Elks and Edmonton fans, I think deserve, a lot of credit over the years for being kind of one of the standard of it. And I'll say this, and I mentioned this earlier, but while you're here, I'll mention it again. I'm going to give them a little bit of a mulligan on that first game, when it comes to the crowd. Now, listen, you want it to be better. It's your home opener. But the hangover that city was in post-Oiler playoff run, not to mention half the city's probably broke because of how much playoff tickets cost and everything they did. It was sort of a perfect storm in the wrong way for Edmonton, and you hope that maybe that will turn around later on. But it's not going to do that until they start giving people a reason to come. And feel that they've got a chance to win a football game, and they're looking for a big one tonight. Not an easy spot. Let me ask you this. You got a brand new coach in Mark Killam who's come up from Calgary, 2 games into the season. Is this the same old, or are you seeing some things that give some hope that this Elks team could be different and that brighter days are in the future?
No, I would say this is not the same old. You are seeing a big difference. You're seeing a difference in the messaging and just even the effort level that the guys are playing with. They were competitive against BC week 1. Look, they had BC. It was 7-3 at halftime, and then Nathan Rourke got going in the second half. So they were in that ball game, and that's with your field goal kicker miss, or your place kicker missing 2 field goals and an extra point. And then last week against Montreal, they got carved up pretty early and often in that game, but we saw some really good signs late in the game, especially with Trey Ford passing and getting aggressive down the field, stretching the field. But as you know, Huss, it's complementary. You can't go through football and have success playing only on defense and specials. You need to have all 3 phases helping each other out. And so far, through 2 games, they haven't had all 3 phases. Mark Killam's actually been pretty vocal about that this week. And I think that we will see the effort level on all 3 phases come together. Now, the problem is you're doing it against the best team in the league. So you got your work cut out for them. And I'll say this, today, the game tonight is going to be won or lost in the trenches. And I know that's cliche. I'm a defensive tackle talking. That's cliche. I get it. But this game, more than any game, whenever you play the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I tell people, key in on their offensive line, because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers go where their offensive line takes them week in and week out. And there is no franchise that has a unit built like Winnipeg's O-line.
Well, I mean, cliches are cliches because you hear them often and because they're true. And, look at any game of professional football. You show me one team that kicks the other team's ass on the line of scrimmage, and I'll show you the team that just won the football game. And, early on, that has been a real benefit to the Bombers. And we were wondering how both the offensive line and defensive line would look after some pretty significant changes. But certainly so far so good with the 2 performances they've had against the BC Lions heading into tonight against Edmonton. Listen, when we talk about Edmonton, when we talk about any team, you talk about the quarterback. But Trey Ford, one of the more exciting quarterback prospects we've had in the league in a long time. He's done some incredible things. He's pretty much guaranteed to end up on the highlight reel once a night. It's been a tougher job to put it together for the full 60 minutes. How would you categorize Trey's plight right now and the pressure he's under to win some games, knowing that they've got a Grey Cup champion in Cody Fajardo that's with them in the QB room that they can go to, and they probably will go to at some point if they don't start getting wins?
Well, Trey's leash is going to be pretty long right now. They made the commitment to him in the offseason, gave him the new contract, and anointed him the face of the franchise. We know in this league, you're going to need 2 quarterbacks to win at any given point. That's just the nature of the beast in the CFL. And we've already seen some franchises. Jeremiah Mazzoli had to start from BC last week. So there'll be a point in time where we need to lean on Fajardo out here. With Trey, though, we want to see more progression. And I think when I say we, I speak for the vast majority, the media, fans, just people across the league. Just continue to progress as a passer. We know you can be a freak athlete and do things that nobody else on the field can do. Like you say, once or twice a game, you will make a human highlight reel play. But that doesn't win you football games. That's cool to see, but it's not success. What success is completing your second and longs, keeping the offense on for long drives, marching it down the field. Because going back to the complementary football aspect, that helps the defense freshen up and get their energy on the sideline. I'll tell you this, one of the worst feelings when you're a defensive player coming off, you sit on the bench, you take a water, and you hear punt alert because the offense is getting ready to go 2-0 and you're punting the ball right back and you got to go play defense. And there's been way too much of that so far. So Trey needs to continue to progress as a passer. He's in year 4 now, so it's really time to see it. But I'll say this as well. It's not all on Trey. I think the coaching staff needs to put Trey in better positions to allow him to be successful as well. Don't treat Trey like he's Michael Riley and have him running the same passing, drop back and passing sets. Do a little bit more RPO stuff with Trey. Make the defenses have to work to Trey's strengths which is using his mobility.
Eddie Steele's with us getting ready for Elks Bombers tonight, 7:30, Princess Auto Stadium. Eddie, as far as this game goes, I mean, listen, you mentioned the great start the Bombers have had, what they've done in the West for the last 5 straight years. Obviously, they're going to be favored tonight. It's pushing double digits right now. From an Elks perspective, when you look at, the matchups, when you look at Edmonton's team, I mean, outside of the quarterback, obviously, what are some of the areas that Edmonton is going to need to really step up if they're going to be in this game in the fourth quarter with the chance to, maybe win?
Going back to it, the line play. That is all it's about with Winnipeg. And that, like you said, football is won or lost on the line of scrimmage, be it offense or defense. And I would run through a brick wall for Coach Michael Shea, and he's never even coached me a down in my life because I know what he preaches in that locker room. And I know that rugged toughness that he's about, and that's where you win football. So in order for Edmonton to have any success, their defensive line needs to stop Winnipeg's O-line. You can't let Winnipeg live in 2nd and 4 to 6 yards because Zach Collaros will have a field day with you. The offense is totally open, so you can't let them just fall forward on first down for 4 to 5 yards. And then defensively, you have to stop Winnipeg's D-line. You can't let them get that pressure. So Edmonton's offensive line is going to have to really show up. Willie Jefferson, I mean, I played with him when he was a rookie in the league back in 2014. And lo and behold, the guy is still going at it. Probably will be a Hall of Famer if he keeps putting numbers up the way he does, because what he's doing is unprecedented, especially at his age. He's really not slowing down because he can affect the game in so many ways with his length, not always his physicality, but his length. So you got to limit Willie and limit those cats and not let them get that momentum, because when they do, and you feel that momentum in that stadium over there, that's the loudest outdoor stadium they have going, and it gets rocking over there, man.
Eddie, just before I ask you one more, I got to quickly ask you about Willie. I mean, people will kill me if I don't jump in on this one. What do you remember about rookie Willie J rolling into the locker room, both off the field and on the field in his rookie season?
He was a character. He was a character, Huss. So he walked in, I'm bald, and he walked in with this reverse haircut, just a patch of hair right here. He had a bald head with a patch of hair at the front. It was like a reverse soul patch, man. And we had no idea who this guy was. Loud, 6'7". All he could do is pass rush, right? But he was always winning in one-on-ones, and he couldn't be stopped. Like, he had to play. And we had a nasty rotation that year. It was Willie, Marcus Howard, Odell Willis. And then on the inside, me, Almondo Sewell, and Donnie O, another U of M cat. And we were filthy on the D-line that year. We had some pass rushers, some run stoppers. But Willie, man, loud. He's no different than how he is now. Just even more reckless, we'll say.
He certainly is that dude. Hey, listen, you mentioned the stadium and it being full again, and it should be. I mean, it's going to be about 25 and sunny today. I mean, the perfect place to spend an evening here in southern Manitoba. As a native Winnipegger, a guy that loves the Canadian Football League, when you look at the building, are you thinking more about what the Bombers are doing right now, or are you kicking yourself that you didn't get to play in that stadium as a member of the Bisons when you were doing your thing?
Oh, good question. Those Bison boys, man, they got it good, man. We had that little hut. Oh, the Butler. Way different times have changed. The Butler hut was so bad you didn't even want to pee in it, man. That's how bad it was.
They were moving on up, that's for sure.
Oh, they're moving on up. One thing, being a hometown kid, I always wish I could play for the Bombers, right? Like, that's the kid's dream, is to play for his hometown team. Whenever I had the chance to negotiate, Huss, they always wanted me to take the home team discount, and I never could do it, man.
Well, hey, I mean, listen, you can't afford these beautiful suits and go doing your thing with your family now if they're going to give you a haircut before you even step on the field. So it is a regret, but you know what? I'll give the new it is wild. If you were born a little bit later, I think that doesn't happen, and I think you do play here because you've seen the way under Kyle Walters and Wade Miller, the amount of hometown players, I mean, it really is incredible. And Brady Oliveira and, of course, Nick Dembski, and before that, Andrew Harris. And the Harris signing, in a lot of ways, I still maintain one of the most impactful free agent signings in CFL history because he came back here as a champion and really changed the identity of that club, and not only connected it with Winnipeg a little bit more, and then they've added it over and over again. And listen, the results speak for themselves. And I think as CFL guys, we hope we can see more of that in some other spots, because it's pretty clear right now, Winnipeg is the standard. It is setting the bar on and off the field, and should be a good one tonight on TSN. Eddie, great catching up with you. We're going to have to do this again throughout the season. I know there's a lot of people that watch this show. They watch our CFL 110. They want more coverage on the league. I know you and your Kang are all over the Elks. Tell us quickly about the Elks Nation pod and where people can get more on that.
Absolutely. All over your social. So this is a new venture, started a couple of weeks ago, and it's really neat. Oilers Nation, they're really big out here. So we're affiliated with them. So we have a really nice team behind the scenes, handling all of the media and the work, and just all about driving behind the scenes content. Actually have a nice partnership with the organization. So there's going to be access to film content, access to players constantly. Awesome. We do a weekly pod, and then we're going to do a breakdown of the game, a post game the next day following the game. So there's going to be a lot of content, Huss. And I got to ask you before I go, my man, it was sitting at 9.5 for the Bombers. Were you landing on this? What are you sprinkling?
Well, to be honest, and I think it might actually even be at 10. Let's just pull this up as we get it live right now. It did get there last night. Yeah, it's 10.5 right now. And to be honest, I'm going to take the points with the Elks. Listen, I do think the Bombers win this football game. And listen, if they won by a couple touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm expecting an Edmonton team to come in with a real sense of urgency to show that they belong on a football field with the team that has been the measuring stick in the West. And I think it's also, you have to consider the Bombers are on a very short week, and we've seen that be impactful earlier on this year. And, while I do think the Bombers win this football game, I think the Elks have a lot more to show so far. And I think they've done that at times against Winnipeg. And I'm not expecting the blowout that maybe some other people do. So, I think I am going to take the points. And we might actually have some interesting football to watch in the fourth quarter, and not the Bombers running away like they kind of did on BC before making the score look a little closer in the fourth quarter. Hey, on the way out, what did you think of the big man touchdown, Tui Eli last week? Hadn't seen a thick six in a while.
No, that was sick hands, toe drag. I love that Caleros trusted him enough to put it there.
It was phenomenal. Eddie, listen, we will do this again soon. Thanks so much for taking the time. Enjoy the game tonight, and be well. Look forward to catching up with the latest on the Elks Nation pod as well.
All right, Huss. Be well, man.
Take it easy. All right, great visit with Eddie Steele. Looking forward to this one tonight. I do want to let's do a quick look at what's going on at the Rocket Classic for our Breezy Bend Golf Report. The chef, Minwoo Lee's cooking. 9 under par right now. Patty mentioned this guy, though, yesterday on the program. Aldrich Poitgeiter. I think he's on him at 150 to 1. He's 8 under through 12 today. Other individuals, Adam Hadwin's 5 under par right now. I got a piece of Ben Griffin. He's 5 under right now. Matt Fitzpatrick is 5 under. Pat Cantlay, Wyndham Clark, 6 under for the event that is underway today, first round of the Rocket Classic. But speaking of big golf tourneys, the biggest tourney of the year in Manitoba is the Manitoba Open, which is going to be over at Breezy Bend. And there's an incredible opportunity to get in on the Manitoba Open Pro-Am right now. A limited number of teams are available for a VIP experience that you won't find in many other spots. Check this out. Now, it's not cheap. It's $4,000 for a team of 4 players. You'll have the opportunity to play with 2 rising stars from the PGA Tour of Americas, one on the front 9 and another on the back 9. And these are the future stars of the PGA Tour, like J.J. Spawn, who just won the U.S. Open. Taylor Pendrith, Mac Hughes, Jake Knapp, all got their start on this tour. Now, the Pro-Am entry fees include a VIP experience that features 18 holes of golf at Breezy Bend right before the tournament. So we'll be playing in tournament conditions, obviously shared cart, 2 meals at the event, one before and one after the round, unlimited on-course beverages, so you won't be pulling out anything else. I mean, everything is part of the package. individual and team prizes. And get this, you want to talk about a gift for everyone? All players receive a tailor-made Spider putter valued at $499. Check out the website, manitobaopen.com. There's a spot for the Pro-Am there, but also sponsorship opportunities, volunteer opportunities and information. They still do need a few volunteers, and tickets that are now on sale for the actual tournament that goes from the 21st to the 24th. So manitobaopen.com for more information on incredible VIP Pro-Am heading into the tournament at Breezy Bend. ASD off tonight. We had 3 straight days of live racing, but they are back at it next week. Going to be a busy week in Assiniboia Downs, obviously, with Canada Day. I'm thinking about planning on getting there on the Wednesday, July 2nd. If you want in advance, you can call up our friends at Assiniboia Downs to make a reservation in for that amazing prime rib buffet in the dining room. And of course, free parking, free admission. And if you do want to bet like we do remotely, you can check out hpibet.com for Assiniboia Downs and tracks around the world. Goldeyes got rained out yesterday, so there's a lot of baseball coming up for the Fish. They're playing a doubleheader tonight in Sioux City, and then getting on the bus, coming back home, and getting ready to host the Milwaukee Milkmen tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then staying at home and welcoming in the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. Of course, Tuesday is Canada Day, and the teams will go at it at 4 p.m. Special time for Canada Day down at the ballpark. Goldeyes.com, 982 base for tickets for this weekend's action. We'll see if Cash wants to come on and set up the next few days with us tomorrow on the program. Of course, GM Andrew Collier. Tomorrow is the draft. We'll have Adam Kilman on the program. We had Scott Wheeler earlier this week. But draft week, we always like to lean on some of our favorite scouts and draft analysts. And today, our old pal Grant McCagg returns to the program. Caught up him a little earlier. Take a look at what we can expect tomorrow and his favorite picks for round 1 of the NFL draft. Let's welcome Grant now into Winnipeg Sports Talk. It is draft week. First round goes Friday night in Los Angeles, and we can't have a draft week without welcoming back our pal. By popular demand, I will say, from listeners, when is Grant McCagg coming on? Well, good news. It's right now. One of the brains behind the incredible Recrutes.ca draft guide, Grant McCagg, joins us now. Grant, what's up? It's great to have you back on the program ahead of the draft. How are you?
Good. It's always a pleasure being on with you, Andrew.
No, we love having you on, and it's our annual visit right before the draft is always interesting. I love your perspective on these things. You have your own opinion. You don't necessarily walk with the consensus, if you will, and that's what makes these conversations always fun. I will tell you, folks, you can see there's a link in the description. Recrutes.ca is where you're going to want to go to check out and get the draft guide to get you fully prepared for Friday and Saturday. And Grant, let me just ask you right off the bat. I mean, we've certainly known a lot of the names at the top of the draft board. I mean, when you look at maybe the first round and the draft overall, how does this one compare in your mind? Really strong one? Is it top heavy? Is it deep? I mean, what's the class of 2025 looking like?
Yeah, I think it's fairly decent at the top. Like the top 10's strong. I don't know that it's a particularly deep draft. I would say it's average. It's an average draft in that regard. But I mean, anybody with a top 10, top 15 pick is going to be happy, I think. And it's strong in Canada. There's a really nice crop of Canadian prospects this year, but it's a little thinner than normal in the U.S. and Europe. So that kind of, balances it out to be an average draft, I would say.
Grant, what's really been interesting is seeing, on a number of lists how things have changed throughout the year. Some risers, some fallers, which we will get to. But it does seem pretty clear that there is a number one prospect for this draft, and it is Matthew Schaefer. How, in your opinion, how much of a lock was he for the number one pick, and how big is the gap from him and players available at 2 and below?
Oh, I don't think it's a huge gap because, Misa and Frondel and Desnoyers, just to name 3, and Martone and, et cetera, are all very good prospects too. But they're not they aren't potential franchise defensemen. And that's the ultimate upside of Matthew Schaefer, is that scouts and I believe that he can be a franchise defenseman if he puts, if he reaches his ultimate upside. I think he'll be on the first PK, first power play, might be a point per game player, fantastic skater. It's just he's got all the tools you want. And on top of it, I don't know if you've seen interviews with him or not, but what an exceptional kid and great character, and you're going to want him. You're going to want him on your team. The Islanders could not have lucked out more than they did, ending up with the first overall pick.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, in a big jump up. And listen, the Islanders have sort of been stuck in that murky middle, and they can hopefully make the most of it. But that is a big win, one of the biggest we've seen in recent draft lottery history. And I'm sure they'll be very much looking forward to jumping up on that podium and making the first selection. Hey, before we move down to some of these other players, I know you spend a lot of time talking to scouts around the National Hockey League. I wanted to ask you, somewhat of a copycat league. We see the Florida Panthers taking team after team out to the alley, beating them up. They've gone back to back. They have a level of physicality, a level of nasty that, you don't see much of in the National Hockey League.
Right.
How is that resonating with scouts this year? And are we looking, or are scouts or NHL teams, do you find, are looking more for players with talent, but players that might kind of get into that Panther mode, if I could use that term?
Well, there are, I think, in a few instances, that is the case. I mean, there's only so many players that play like let's use the template here. Sam Bennett, right? The Conn Smythe winner, and I think the best playoff performer of the past 3 years combined. Brady Martin, I think, the Sam Bennett effect has come into play with Brady Martin jumping up in the rankings as high. There's talk that he may go 4. I moved him up, just slowly moved him up the rankings all through the spring, and now have him top 5. If Sam Bennett wasn't kind of like the poster child for the NHL playoffs right now, I don't know that Bennett would be that high. But he's a Sam Bennett type player, and he's just, it's all about competitiveness, grit. He's very smart and skilled as well, but there are more skilled players that'll probably go after him. But he's a winner. He's going to help you win, just like the Canadian U18 team. He was probably the impetus, the main factor for them winning. Teams love that, and I think that for sure is teams. You're exactly right, Andrew, that it's a copycat league, and typically we saw it after Boston won in 2010, I guess it was, or the teams drafted big guys, right? They tried every big defenseman, I think. Maybe he can be the next Zdeno Chara. Let's draft him. I think they got overranked, and I think that will be the case this year as well. That there will be an emphasis on character and grit in the draft.
I imagine from a scouting perspective, I mean, there's a lot of things like, this guy has world-class speed. He can shoot. the intangibles of that competitive nature and competitive level has to be one of the more challenging things to quantify for these young draft prospects at this point in their careers.
Absolutely. I think sense and competitiveness are, you have to see a player a number of times to really get the right read on those two things. But for a lot of teams, they're right at the top of, like you look at a kid like Lyndon Lakovic as an example. He's big, protects the puck well, has good skill. And typically, I think if the Florida Panthers weren't so, the team to copy these days, Lakovic, I think, would go top 15 and certainly top 20. But there have been some questions about, will he go to the hard areas? Or does he stay to the outside? In a competitive, tight checking game, will he fight through and go to the net and get the dirty goals that you see so often at playoff time? And because of that, there's an example of a player that may not go until late in the first round, even though if you just look at his size, skill combination, you would think that he would be a top 15 pick.
Grant McCagg from Recrutes.ca getting us ready for the NHL draft this weekend. We mentioned Matthew Schaefer, consensus number 1. It seems like Michael Remis has really finished up as the consensus number 2. Tell us about his season. Like, he didn't make the World Junior team, and yet he tore up the OHL. I mean, was this a guy that just continued an ascent throughout the year? Tell us about Misa, the number 2 overall pick.
Well, I think he was lights out right from the start of the year. Like, I was surprised that he didn't get picked for the World Junior team, and lo and behold, they ended up lacking some goal scoring. And, geez, I wonder who they could have added that might have helped them in that department. But, I think early on he was on pace for like 80 goals, right? So he burst out of the gate, and he was great from the get-go. It's rare that you come across a center that you think has 40 goal potential each year. There aren't many of them that get 40 goals per season, but he's a player that I think, especially if he's got good line mates, can get you 40 plus goals most years. And good skater, smart player. He's gonna pick up his apples too. So hard to pass on that at number 2, I think.
Number 3 is the top European ranked player, and that's Anton Frundell. He seems to be a bit of a riser. Who would based on the scouting report, what does he project to be? Is there a comparable to the National Hockey League you think of when you see Frundell?
I'm reminded a bit of Hossa. Not Marcel, but Marion.
That's that's a nice comparable.
Yeah. I mean, when you make these comparisons, it's typically with the best possible outcome, right? And obviously, for him to become a Hall of Famer, he'd be quite a career. But that type of player, I think he can be a power forward. Philip Forsberg, if you want to be a little, I've heard him compared to Peter Forsberg by somebody, which was interesting, but just a big, strong, but the thing is, like, it's hard to come up with these exact comparisons because I think he's going to be a centerman at the end of the day. And Hossa obviously was a winger, but just the size, strength, skill, smarts combination that you got with Hossa, I see him being able to power through and get to the net. He plays at a excellent two-way game. Love his smarts, love his compete. Another real high character kid. All these guys at the top of the draft are just exceptional character, all of them. Denwyer, Martin, Misa, Schaefer, Rondell, they're all super, super good kids too. So that's nice to see.
Grant, I want to ask you about two players that, were really consensus top fives, I think, early on in the draft. We see them at 7 and 8 on your list. Tell us about Porter Martone, why he fits in at 7. And I mean, I think we can all agree that James Higgins has seen his stock fall in comparison to these other prospects. So I wanted to get your take on Higgins, too, the year he's had and where he sits at number 8 on the Recrutes.ca ranking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bob McKenzie just put out his list and had Martone 3. So, I mean, he might very well go top 3 or 4. For most scouts and myself included, after Schaefer and Misa, you can basically flip these guys back and forth. It wouldn't surprise me if Martone went 3, and maybe Frondell goes 7. It could be the opposite of what I have, but
sure,
there's not much, difference between the guys 3 to 7 for me. Martone, I don't know that he made a progression this year. It, especially away from the puck, there were some concerns that came in just about his pace and just desire to play hard away from the puck. I think, though, that's something that we saw when he was 16 years old. So, he could well bounce back from that and learn from that. A lot of them do that sort of coast a bit at times in their draft years. The potential's there. I mean, he's a big kid, big points totals, going to get points on the power play. He's going to be a desirable guy come draft day, and it wouldn't shock me if he goes anywhere from 3 to 7. But there were just some concerns, and then these other guys I just like so much. It's more. But with him, both him and Higgins, it's more about the other guys impressing me more than these guys disappointing me, you could say. Although Higgins, much like Martone, I don't think he had as strong a year as you had hoped. After 21 points or whatever it was at the U18s 2 springs ago, I think a lot of people figured he'd just tear up even though he was a freshman, but playing with Perreault and Leonard, I think we expected more goals and more points from him, even though he did get a point per game as a freshman. But his play away from the puck, definitely as a projecting as a center in the NHL at 5'10" and a half. I think that's where the concerns come in with him. There's lots of offensive skill there. He's going to get his points, his assists, but a lot of scouts and that includes me think that at the NHL level, if he's going to play a top 6 role, it's going to likely be on the wing. So at the end of the day, you've got a 5'10" and a half winger. Who could get a lot of points and maybe a first-line winger, but would you prefer a 6'1" center that could produce similar totals and be more of a two-way player? At the end of the day, most NHL teams, I think, would lean towards that player over a 5'10" and a half winger, no matter how talented he is.
Grant, I got to ask you about a couple players with local ties. We've got a lot of Manitobans in the draft, but Carter Bear, I see, from Winnipeg, playing with the Everett Silvertips. He finished up at number 11 on the Recruits.ca ranking. Tell us a little bit about Carter and his NHL prospects.
I loved him. I watched him early in the year, and that's like I'm seeing him in draft lists like at the end of the 1st or 2nd round, and I'm like, what's going on here? Wake up, people. Like the title of one of our podcasts was Wake Up on Carter Bear. I could, and then finally, it was like a Ginla, where at the start of the year, 2 years ago, he was so good. And I'm like, why is this guy not ranked in the top 15? And then you saw him slowly climb rankings. Just all-out competitor, great skill, smart, a great shot. Just love his motor. It's nonstop, and honestly, if he hadn't suffered that injury, he'd be in my top 10. But that does raise a little bit of doubt, concern about, will he bounce back 100% skating-wise from that injury? I always think back to Kyle Chipchura. Remember Kyle Chipchura?
I do.
Western League boy, that he was really coming on as a prospect and then had the Achilles injury, and his skating was just never quite the same, and it ended up affecting him at the NHL level. I think we've come a long way with Achilles injuries, and hopefully he gets a full recovery and there is no lasting effects on his skating development. But there is that little bit of concern, and for that reason, I ranked him 11th, but that's still, it just goes to show you how much I respect him as a prospect.
Grant, I got to ask you about one other guy with Manitoba ties, and that is Wheaties center Roger McQueen. We've talked a lot about size and power. I mean, this dude is 6'5", nearly 6'6", but he didn't play a lot last year. I guess it's a two-part question. He's 14th on your list. If he played a full season last year and wasn't dealing with his injury, how much further up the draft board, and how risky of a pick, but what do you think about the ceiling if things go well for him?
Yeah, well, it's very similar. I was going to mention him when I was talking about Bear, but he's in the same boat, right? That just a little bit of uncertainty about his health going forward certainly hurt. And I think, it's the Caden Lindstrom effect too, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, similar injury, same deal. He came back at the end of the year for the playoffs and then re-aggravated it and was out again. And you wonder, geez, what if he misses the entire regular season like Lindstrom did last year? But I am told that it's a different type injury. They diagnosed what it was, not necessarily the exact same thing, herniated disc or whatever, and that certainly the medical reports are saying that he's okay now and that it shouldn't be as worrisome going forward. I did not necessarily like how he looked when he came back. I realized that you have to give him some leeway given how long he was out for, but I don't know that I've seen a lot of progression in his game over the last year and a half. And you wonder if maybe he sort of has reached his upside potential and there won't be a lot more growth in his game. And for that reason, I bumped him down, and obviously the health reason first and foremost, I bumped him down a few slots from where where he's ranked, I think, by most lists.
Grant, we cannot wait for Friday night. I've just every year love the incredible work that you and the team at Recruits do. Fill people in on the draft guide, the site, and how they can get their hands on it. So they're completely up to date and have all the info when we hear these names come off the board on the weekend.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate it, Andrew.
No problem. Recruits.ca. We'll have a link in the description of this. And Grant, enjoy the weekend. It's always fun. It's a huge day for all these young men. And for all you scouts, all the work all year long comes to fruition on the weekend. Good luck with everything, and thanks for doing this, Grant. Always love having you on the show on draft week.
Thanks for having me.
All right, draft day tomorrow, round 1, and then the rest of the action on Saturday. We'll have Adam Kimmelman on the program tomorrow, and who knows? I mean, we've seen some moves around the league over the course of the last few days, so maybe something juicy for us to sink our teeth into tomorrow as we get ready for round 1. Virtual draft, first time in a long time, And hopefully the last one. And next year we'll be back to being boots on the ground wherever the 2026 draft is. Thanks again to Grant for coming on Recrutes.ca. If you want more information, I want to jump on that pack before the draft guide before tomorrow going on. Hey, how are we feeling tonight, folks? We're going to get into the cool bet lines right now, but for all of you that are with us in the chat, can I get some predictions on this game tonight? Get me some scores in here. You can anyone that nails it, you can go back tomorrow and see I nailed it. It's right there in the chat from Thursday's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. The Bombers right now, 10.5-point favorites. Big number for the Bombers to cover tonight. Can they do that? Do you think that they will? Let us know in the chat. Now, CFL numbers for this week. Bombers still 10.5-point favorites tonight. Totals 51 in the game. Bombers minus 556 to win. Elks plus 390. But Remo, jump in for this because we should talk about these games. I know we were just looking at our DraftKings lineup for the WST contest. It's we're going to be seeing a lot of backup quarterbacks in the league this week from what it sounds, and it's showing as much in these lines.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty around the league. You have McLeod Bethel Thompson. He's going to start for Montreal. BC, we just had an update from Farhan that Rourke was thrown on the sidelines, didn't really participate. Sounds like Drew Brown hasn't really practiced. Trevor Harris didn't practice yesterday. We're monitoring that one. And BC, so you have BC, Saskatchewan, and Ottawa. Big question marks. Montreal is going with the backup, and Toronto has Arbuckle. So pretty much this aside from this game, you have the only regular starter is Bo Levi Mitchell for Friday, Saturday, Sunday's game. That's confirmed right now. I mean, possible, the regular guys could be in, but it hasn't been confirmed. So a lot up in the air in this weekend's CFL game.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so Montreal right now with MBT is just a 2-point favorite. That's come down slightly. Ticats plus 119 on the money line and 2-point home dogs. The BC Sask game has just gone off the board. It was 3.5. And again, that was 5.5. Then it was 6.5. Earlier today, it was 2 or 2.5. It probably ends in and around the 3.5, especially if it's Masoli and Jake Mayer going at it. And then the final game, the Argos still 2.5-point underdogs. Ottawa 2.5-point home favorites, thinking it's going to be Crum and Arbuckle going at it. Argos plus 116 on the money line. Red Blacks minus 141. When you're playing at Cool Bet, don't forget every single week you get one CFL bet with a 30% profit boost. So whether you're doing a single game, whether you want to juice up a parlay, all you got to do is click that green box when you do it. But you only get to do it once per week, so use that wisely. Also available for your weekly golf picks. Patty and I looking pretty good from what we cranked out yesterday with Min Woo with that great start. And man, that point guider guy that Pat was on with his final long shot at 150 to 1, right up there near the top of the leaderboard. We do have Gold Eyes action today. The Gold Eyes are a plus 105 underdog in Sioux City for the game that's starting at 5 p.m. UFC 317 on the weekend. So we can, maybe I'll send a text to our pal Aaron Brunstetter trying to get some picks for that for tomorrow. And as far as the CEBL, the Sea Bears back in action tomorrow against the Scarborough Shooting Stars. 1.5-point home dogs. Sea Bears even money on the money line for that game tomorrow. And wow, we've even got WWE Night of Champions odds. I may have to dive into that tomorrow on the rematch. But in case you were wondering, Cody Rhodes, a minus 1,000 favorite. Randy Orton plus 500 to win, and that would mean that it's Cena and the King of the Ring, Cody Rhodes, at SummerSlam. What do we got? Rhea Ripley's a -500 favorite over Raquel Rodriguez. Sami Zayn -357 fave over Karrion Kross. Queen of the Ring tourney final. Jade Cargill -303 going up against Asuka. Undisputed WWE Championship. John Cena, a massive favorite over CM Punk. And Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa. That should be good. Fatu, big favorite. Every now and then for the big the premium live events, as they're known, you can get those over at CoolBet. Oh, and obviously the PGA Tour has started, but Live Golf Dallas gets going. Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, co-favorites 5-1. Joakim Niemann 7. Tyrrell Hatton 9-1, and then Carlos Ortiz and Patrick Reed. Brooks Koepka 22-1. Actually looked pretty good for a while at the U.S. Open. It's all there at CoolBet. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST. 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And for all you poker players that joined us, we'll do another event next month. But there is a qualifier for the CoolBet Open, the Canadian final, on the July 3rd. And then our pal Pat Mayo, the PME, is doing his tourney on July 8th. So if you want another chance to try to get into that tourney and advance to the Canadian final for that trip, make it happen. I do see we've got a lock of the night. Dalton Schoen over 71.5 receiving yards. I don't mind that. Yeah, just quickly on our way out, let's check some of these props right now. Passing totals, Trey Ford over under 242.5. Zach Caleros over under 290. Caleros -143 for over 1.5 passing touchdowns. What do we have here? Receiving yards. The Dalton Schoen number 71.5. I'm going to ride with you on that one. I'll take the over. Carrick Wheatfall 65.5. And then Curly Gittins Jr., Stephen Dunbar, and Zach Mathis all listed for the Elks. And the rush yards, Justin Rankin over under 53.5, and Matthew Peterson, the Alberta native, Alberta star, going up against the Elks, 50.5 for Peterson right now today. And as we get into the week, CFL futures will come off the board once kickoff happens. Alouettes, the favorite to win the Grey Cup, +275. Co-favorites at second, +375 for the Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And the one other thing you might want to take a look at, and it's been interesting seeing how these lines have moved. I've just sort of been checking them every hour or so. We got full lines for the NHL draft. Now, everybody, it seemingly is a fait accompli that Matthew Schaefer is the number 1 pick. Michael Misa right now -222 to go second. Anton Frondel to go third at -161. Caleb Denoyer, the favorite, to go fourth at -161. And then the 5th overall pick is where it gets sort of interesting. Porter Martone +170. James Higgins +225. Lots of options for players to be a top 5 pick, to be a top 10 pick, as well as to be a first-round pick, and then some overs. And things like, how many forwards are going to be drafted in the first round? CHL players in the first round, OHL, WHL, NCAA. Tons of options right now over at CoolBet. And for those of you that are interested in where Carter Bear of Winnipeg is selected, the over-under on his number is 14.5. Again, Grant McCagg liked him at 11 overall. It's all there at CoolBet for you. We'll get into that tomorrow when we do dive a little bit more into tomorrow's draft. Man, Remo, great day for some football, though. We'll worry about the draft tomorrow. Tonight, it's all about the Bombers and the Elks at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, what great weather, great atmosphere. Bombers favored by, was 9.5, now 10.5, making up for should be a great evening outdoors at the stadium. Can't wait. They're special. I guess they got a special food item and game. What the home opener was, that giant burrito. Did you see what tonight's special is?
Elk burger.
Elk burger. I think you have to get one if you went. I got what did I get? Shawarma con when I went, but I would be in for an elk burger. Great, nicely done by the team there at the Bombers.
Yeah, and shout out to Tedley too, who had the super chat. Thanks a lot, Tedley. And hey, listen, he's paying for his super chats with great picks like Dalton Schoen over 71.5 over at Coolbet. Tomorrow will be a fun show. Hammer will be on. We'll recap tonight's game in the Canadian Football League between the Bombers and the Elks. We'll hear from Mike O'Shea and more feedback from the game. We'll also have the latest on the draft with Adam Kimmelman. Our pal Pat Raffalo is often in chat. He's going to jump on and fill us in on the remaining seats for the 1930 crew bus trip to Regina on Labor Day weekend for Bombers Riders, which I'll be a part of again. I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll check in with the Gold Eyes as well for a few minutes to set up a big weekend and a homestand that continues through Canada Day and into next week. So don't miss a big Friday show tomorrow, getting ready for the draft with the latest from around the National Hockey League. And, of course, all the aftermath of tonight's big game. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Thanks to Grant McCagg, Eddie Steele, Murat Ates, and, of course, CFL Commissioner Stewart Johnston for joining us on the program today. Hopefully we'll see you tonight at Princess Auto Stadium. And if not, tomorrow, 1 p.m., you know the drill, right here, Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll see you then.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.